Hey everybody, it's Robert Phoenix. That's right, it's me, and I am broadcasting to you live tonight as we move into the final phases of the exactitude of the Great Conjunction. Oh, and speaking of Great Conjunction, look who's here. there he is. There he is. Your pal and I, Jasper, the Astro Cat, the Great One, my teacher. This is my teacher. He doesn't know it. Maybe he does. Maybe he does know he's my teacher. Jasper is a paragon of versatility and mutability. He'll eat anything. He's pretty much happy anywhere, unless it's a car, which he doesn't really like very much. He likes everyone. Once he gets to know them, he doesn't have any teeth, but that doesn't stop him from having some modicum of courage. At least when it's with Rosie. So Jasper, my great cat teacher. Yesterday was I get is there's something on Twitter called Catterday. Something about cats and Twitter on Saturday. I was checking this out uh, yesterday. So a little late tonight. I was waiting for the game to end. I wanted to watch it end. It was the final four playoff games. It was pretty successful on most of my bets, although I only had one wager, and I wasn't really taking it entirely seriously. Although if I had won, it would have been great. I won a bet last week on this website that I never really go to, but they certainly had no problem taking my money. Now for them, I won. It wasn't great. I wanted to get my money out. I didn't have a huge win, but I wanted to get my money out so I could go to another betting site because I really didn't like their betting site all that much. But they said, "Well, you've got to wait 12 to 14 days." It was only like $70. It wasn't that big of a deal. So I wasn't really going to wait around for $70. So I made a big 6 team parlay deal, and it wasn't the teams, but it was like a lot of different levers like covers and overs and money lines and things like that. And I had six layers. I hit four out of the six. So if I just peeled it down to four, it would have been fine. But I didn't. And the reason why I did six is because that was, in my estimation, the max I could do. And if I had won, I would have won 5K. But I didn't. So losing, now I don't have to go back there. I don't have to worry about getting my $70 out of there. I'm just going to talk a little bit of football here because it's obviously, I think it's interesting. Some of you may not think so. But I'm going to talk a little bit of football because there was a lot that happened this weekend. And if you follow me on Twitter, I talked about a lot of this stuff over the course of the last 48 hours. And yesterday, the 49ers played the Minnesota Vikings, and a lot of what I saw before the game kind of fleshed itself out. Like Kirk Cousins took over kind of where he sort of finished last week because of where his true node was. It was almost like kind of a continuation of that game from New Orleans. But I felt like in order for them to be successful, they would have to really done something a bit different because that energy was going to peter out. And really one of the stars of the game for San Francisco is a young player by the name of Deebo Samuel, who happens to be born on January 15th, which meant that his son was approaching his solar return. And this is a really kind of good jumping off point to talk about the solar return, even though it may not be your solar return. God willing, you're going to have one this year, right? Or maybe in the first couple of weeks you've already had one. And what's interesting about the solar return is that the energy, like people say, well, you start celebrating a week before or a week after, but there's some truth to that, because of the approach of the sun and the conjunction of the sun, because the sun will be conjunct your natal sun, which means that you're going to be, generally speaking, unless you're really old and decrepit, in a fairly festive mood most of the time, or unless you're in a very depressed point in your life and you're getting older, and that birthday is pretty meaningless. But by and large, that's why people tend to get excited around their birthdays and tend to feel generally better around their birthdays most of the time. I'm not saying all the time because of the solar return. And it's better when it's actually approaching. There's more momentum. And once it's separating, there's still some momentum there, and you can still celebrate 2, 3 days after your solar return, aka birthday. Nothing wrong with that. That's because the sun is conjunct the sun. Nothing wrong. So when somebody like Debo Samuel, we saw this last week, by the way, with Derrick Henry, who's a Capricorn, and he played right on his birthday. He played a playoff game against the New England Patriots, and his sun shone brighter than any other in that game. Now, that said, the sun was still conjunct his sun, and not only that, but guess what? Jupiter is also in kind of a wide conjunction with Derrick Henry's sun as well. And Jasper's DNA in my mouth. Anyway, so you could tell like he's on a roll. Like this is a guy. He's really big. He's like 6'4", weighs about 250 pounds, runs a 4.5 40, and nobody really wants to tackle him. You know, of the Tennessee Titans, he might be the most titanic. He's going to be on a good run. I mean, literally and figurative, because each day Jupiter is going to get closer and closer to his sun, and the immensity and the myth and the legend of Derrick Henry will grow. Now, what's interesting is that Lamar Jackson also had a birthday, and there is a completely different thing going on with Lamar Jackson. And I think it had to do with the fact that, if I'm not mistaken, Lamar Jackson was born on a Cancer full moon. And so he was really engaged in the eclipse energy, whereas Derrick Henry was still in that eclipse wave between the two eclipses, but not as close as Lamar Jackson. So let me look up his chart really quickly here. It's kind of an exercise. Jasper, can you help me look up Lamar Jackson's chart? Hold on. Okay. Let's see what we have here. Astro theme. Oh, I got Samuel Jackson, Michael Jackson, lots of Jacksons. Let's see what we got here. Let's see what we have. Lamar Jackson. I have to do his chart. He's born the year of the ox. Okay. So it makes him like a double Capricorn. The weird thing about Lamar Jackson, his birthday date changed. Like at one point, he was born on Muhammad Ali's birthday, and then another time his birthday was different. So we got 1/7/97. Okay, just let me look this up really quickly, if you don't mind, because I just want to make sure that my calculations are right. 1/7/97. Boy, young dude. He had a hard game last night. Very difficult. Let's see what we got. 1/7/97. Born on a Sag moon. And let's see. Mars in Libra, Venus in Sag. What is Muhammad Ali's birthday? Give me 1 second here. I want to find this out, because apparently they moved Lamar Jackson's birthday at one point. At one point, he was born on January 17th, which was kind of bizarre. And one of the things that, and I found this out through, what's his name? The Gematria guy who is on Off Planet Radio. He does a lot of Gematria sports. He was really convinced that the Ravens were going to win this year, the Super Bowl. A little bit wrong, just a little bit wrong. So January 17th would have put him in the Taurus moon factor versus the Sag moon. I would say he's probably more of a Sag moon. That's just my take on it. In any case, very different energies for Derrick Henry and for Lamar Jackson. And Lamar Jackson, not quite in his Jupiter return yet. That won't happen until the summer, late spring, early summer, when Jupiter ramps up to about 24. Jupiter's really fast this year, by the way. It's really, really fast. It gets up to like 25 degrees very, very quickly. And it doesn't really go back very far at all. Let's go to 2020. Let's talk a little bit about Jupiter's path this year. Of course, everybody knows about the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in Aquarius in December of 2020. So let's get the Jupiter path. Welcome to the show, everybody. By the way, people that are filling the halls of Chatlandia up. Okay, so tracking Jupiter. Yeah, boy, it gets to it almost goes all the way. Jupiter almost goes all the way into Aquarius this year. It is super fast. It gets to 27 degrees by May. It's like 3 degrees away from being in Aquarius, right? It's very, very interesting. Very interesting. And what people don't talk about is that we have the Saturn-Pluto conjunction. We're going to have the Jupiter-Pluto conjunction in a very big way at the end of March, right around the 29th of March. So that's really interesting. I guess we could explore that as well. But it feels like this eclipse really, really hit Lamar Jackson. It kind of took him out. And meanwhile, on the other side, Derrick Henry, the other Capricorn, continued to run wild like a rampaging rhinoceros across the plains of the Serengeti. Nobody could stop him, and he's going to be a load. Anyway, I predicted that game. That was I took the Titans and the over. That was easy. That was like taking candy from a baby. Easy. They're being given 9.5 points. That was a no-brainer. I did get the Niners and the under, but I also had, I hate to say it, I had Minnesota covering. I thought this game was going to be a lot tighter than it was. Totally nailed the Chiefs and the Texans game, which was kind of interesting. At kickoff, the ascendant was in Gemini, and that was in Kansas City, and you can see the tweet on Twitter because I put it up on Twitter. So I looked at it, and I'm like, wow, this is gonna be a really mercurial game. And initially, because there's some really fast guys that play for the Chiefs, I thought that their speedy, mercurial wide receivers were going to be the story of the first half. And I also thought that there would be trick plays and weird plays, and that there would be a point where a referee would insert himself into the game. What's really been interesting about the playoffs is Zachary Hubbard is the guy's name who does the sports show watch. He's actually a really, really bright guy and does some really interesting work. So if you have any interest in that stuff, check him out. But he was off unless he changed his prediction. I think he was, and everything really looked Ravens. I mean, it felt Raven-esque. Like there was nobody who was going to stop them. Although this Tennessee team was really very much for real. And when you have a guy who's your star player and it's his birthday and he's got Jupiter conjunct in his sun, and he's 6'4" and he weighs 250 pounds and he runs a 4.40, the scales are going to tilt in that direction. So again, they had too much momentum. There was the money, but that Chiefs game, I was like, okay, this is what's going to happen. The refs are going to insert themselves in what has been a fairly well officiated playoff series, which means that the fixes have not been hit. Right, my hair is a little crazy. Wow, tonight. So the fixes have not been in, but I did see like a play in the first half, and it happened. There was a pass interference play. It was one of those games. There were two plays that changed that game, and one had to do with special teams, and it was a trick play. Um, for whatever reason, the Texans decided to go for a fake punt, and then there was the play with the pass interference. And the nature of the game was very mercurial, but it had more to do with the actual score and how quickly um, Houston got out to a lead, and then how quickly Kansas City caught them and overtook them is incredibly mercurial. I've never seen a game like this before. The Kansas City set records for scoring. Anyway, I had the Chiefs in the over for that game, and that worked out. And then I had the Packers in the under, but they went over. So there was combinations in there that worked. If you're hitting about 58% on your totals with betting, if you're hitting 58%, you're winning. 58% is considered to be a very high average. Most people are down in the 40% range. And what was also interesting, bringing this back to astrology, was the mutability. There was a lot of mutability on display in terms of the quarterbacks, and not just any kind of mutability, but same sign mutability and sharing unique and common characteristics. So, for instance, Pat Mahomes was born 3 days after Deshaun Watson, same year. So they're both Virgos, separated by 3 days. Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson are both Sagittarians, born in different years, but again, separated by 3 days. So there was some interesting kind of mutable anomalies going on. And clearly, the most mutable of those games was the one that was ruled by Virgo, which was the Chiefs and the Texans. So it's been an interesting day just in terms on that front. Let me check in with you and see how you guys are doing on the eve. We're really in the Saturn-Pluto conjunction, but when you look at the degrees, you'll see that we're not quite there exactly. Exactly. So we're going to talk about this a little bit as well. I'm going to try to get tonight's show in probably maybe about an hour, maybe because it's getting kind of late. And I've been talking about this for a long time, and I did a really 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 good show. I think it was Wednesday night with Nish and Jerry. In case you missed that show, Jerry Abland, who we've talked about before, who does Nox Mente and what is it, Voces? I forget the name of the second part of that title, but it's basically Nox Mente is a dream show, and then the Voces show is kind of the after party. And they've been doing this for a long time, and now they have a new show called Obelisk, and I was the second guest on Obelisk. It's a full moon show, named after, of course, Stanley Kubrick's Obelisk that appears prominently in 2001: A Space Odyssey. So, and that's the moon. By the way, anybody see the moon last night? Anybody see the moon rise last night? Holy shit. It was one of those moons like, is it really that far? Is it really that far away? It looked real close on the horizon. Super. It was magnifico moon. Anyway, Jerry's back on the case. He's back on the case. And it's so fascinating because he had a major heart deal. He went back to go see his parents in Chicago, the heartland of the country, the heart chakra of the country, and something went amiss. And it was so bad that they had to put Jerry into a medically induced coma. And there were people that thought that he wouldn't make it. And he eventually came out of his medically induced coma, was in the hospital for 20 days. And this was not that long ago. Now he's back home in Georgia, and he's doing podcasts again. Like, blowing my mind. Well, he's got Pluto. He's got Pluto and Uranus. He's got Pluto close to his ascendant. It's in the 12th house. But that tells you a lot about somebody who has Pluto near the ascendant. Like they're fighters. Never underestimate somebody who has Pluto on their ascendant. Let me tell you, that is a very very intense aspect, super intense aspect. And people with Pluto on the ascendant tend to be very unmistakable personalities. And and I'm talking on the ascendant or in the first house, not necessarily always in the 12th house, by the way. It's a little bit different. But Jerry's born in the year of the snake as well. And there's something to the Chinese signs. I know we talk a lot about Western astrology here, Placidus, mundane Placidus, tropical, zodiacal astrology here. Every now and then we delve into other stuff. But the Chinese signs are, I think they're very legit because my Chinese sign has always, uh, you know, made a lot of sense for me. And I've seen other people with their Chinese signs, and they're pretty telltale in a lot of ways. So Jerry was born in the year of the snake, which of course has recuperative powers associated with it. Snake people tend to be they have a lot of regenerative powers. And because the snake is related to Scorpio in the Western system, I'll just go through all of them. And by the way, if you don't know the story of Chinese astrology and how the calendar came to be, I will tell you the story. Some of you already know it, but some of you don't know it. It might be a good opportunity to share the story. So one day the Buddha wanted to start this calendar, and he looked around at all the animals, and he says, "Well, which animal knows the most animals?" He says, "Oh, it's that rat. It's that a pesky little rat who's always hanging around looking for scraps. He knows all the animals. I'll task him with bringing all the animals over here to start a calendar." So he tells her, I say, listen, Ratty, I'm going to start a calendar here, and I need 11 animals. I'll throw you in there too. I need 11 animals because we need to have a calendar. Why don't you go out and find me 11 animals? So the rat says, yeah, okay. I'll get you 11 animals. No problem. He's thinking, hey, it might be some cheese in this for me. So he goes out and he says, okay, well, oh, there's that ox. There's that great big ox. I'll bring him in. Come on in, ox. We got a little calendar thing going on. Then the next animal he sees is, guess what? It's a cat. It's like Jasper. He's like, I'm not going to approach that cat. That could be trouble for me. However, I really think the Buddha would like a cat. Oh, I know. Oh, we get a tiger because tigers are really, really big. And I'm just a little thing to a tiger. I'm a main course to a rat. For a tiger, I'm a trifle. So he goes finds tiger. Tells tiger all about it. Then he goes through all these other animals. After that, he goes to see the rabbit. And then he sees the dragon. He goes down into the dragon's lair. He tells the dragon. And he's like, dragon. He says, oh, wow. Who else is like there? How about the snake? Maybe like the dragon, the snake, and maybe they'll cancel each other out. I'll get the snake. So he gets the snake. And then after the snake, there's, oh my gosh, there's the horse. Of course, the horse is very proud to be a part of this, and the horse canters on over. And then after the horse, there is the sheep, right? It's the sheep, the quiet and docile sheep. It would be, oh, no, I take that back. Okay, this after the horse. Yes, it is the sheep. After the sheep, it is the monkey. After the monkey, it is the rooster. After the rooster, it's the dog. And after the dog, it is the boar. So they all wind up on the edge of a riverbank. And the Buddha's on the other side of this river. And the Buddha says, first animal that crosses the river gets to me is the winner, and you get to start my year. You get to be the animal that always kicks off the Chinese calendrical cycle. So the rat looks around and goes, I don't stand a fucking chance. Who's a good swimmer here? Sizes them off really quickly. So I think the ox. I think the ox is the best swimmer. So what does the rat do? As soon as the Buddha drops his little piece of silk, Buddha was really into silk. Jasper, you're blowing my story. The rat jumps up on the ox. It jumps up on the ox, and the ox is so intent on getting to the side, doesn't feel the rat. Gets to the other side, and just before the ox puts his hoof on the other side of the river, the rat shoots off the top of the ox, hits the ground, runs up the Buddha's leg, and gets on his shoulder. Buddha says, that's it. It's the rat. The rat starts the calendrical cycle for my calendar, and all the animals pissed and moaned and bitched. You would think that they were SJWs. The Buddha said, I didn't make any rules. I said, first animal got here. I didn't make any rules. So the rat was the animal that starts off the Chinese calendar. So the rat is comparable to Sagittarius. The ox is comparable to Capricorn. The rabbit is comparable to Pisces. The tiger is comparable to Aquarius. Um, let's see, what do we have after Aquarius? We have 65. Then we have the uh, let's see. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm back. No. Here we go. The rabbit is Pisces. The dragon. Okay, we have the. Hold on. Okay, we have the tiger. So we have the tiger. That's Aquarius, and that's after the ox. My bad. Then after that happens to be the hare. That's Pisces. After that, it's the dragon. That's Aries. After that, it's the snake. That's Scorpio. After that, it is the horse. And did I get that right? Oh, hold on. I'm sorry. It's not the snake. Is not Scorpio. The snake is Taurus. I'm thinking it's Scorpio in my head. My bad. My bad. I'm thinking of snake. I'm fucking up the story. I apologize. But let's start from the beginning. Rat Sagittarius. The ox is Capricorn. The tiger is Aquarius. Right? Okay, got that. Then we have the hare. That's Pisces. We have the dragon. That's Aries. And we have the snake. That's Taurus. Then we have the horse, which is Gemini. Then we have after the horse, that would be Cancer, which would be the sheep. And then after that, we have the monkey, which is Leo. And then after that, the rooster, which is Virgo. After that, the dog, which is Libra. After that, we have the boar, which is Scorpio, and we're back to the rat again. So my apologies about the snake. It is related to Taurus. My bad. I had to go through my head. I was thinking about the snake and Scorpio and shedding skin and all that. So there you go. There is the story of the Chinese astrological New Year's. And I think there's a lot of merit to Chinese astrology. And it gets really, really deep. You know, it's not just your Chinese astrology, just like Western astrology. There's also your rising sign, like what hour were you born in? You know, where's your moon? It goes right on down the line. Then it gets into directions. And so it's a very interesting system when you go quite deeply. We are moving into the year of the rat. This is the metal rat, and there's a lot of conductivity with the metal rat. I'm going to show you a little bit of conductivity today as I go through a video. Conductivity, electricity. There can be excitement in the air. It can be very, very explosive. In some way, you know, metal is cold. You know, it is not a warm energy. You know, it's like in Chinese astrology, they have wood. You know, they have wood as an energy, and wood tends to be warm. And then they also happen to have fire, of course, that's warm. And then water, which theoretically can be warm, or at least it's very least emotional. But metal, which is sort of the stand-in for air, is kind of a cold energy. So there can be some coldness in the air this year. And there's, you know, that with this idea that the rat can be very opportunistic and look for openings in the midst of a time where there's a great deal of Capricorn. You know, you could kind of move mountains this year, but you also have to be careful that there's some level of scruples involved, right? Like you're not just, you know, moving mountains and moving people around or moving people aside. So there's a lot of energy this year that is really conducive, and I've talked about this before, to getting ahead. But you can't really, or it's not always in your best interest during this year to get ahead at another person's expense. I mean, generally isn't anyway. But this is a year where being conscious and aware of what that is. And, you know, it's really interesting because I think by and large, humanity breaks down into two camps, you know, bicameralization of humanity. And one camp is, and I don't want to say that people that are achievers are sociopaths, because that's not really true. I've seen people that are really high level, achievement oriented people who have a very strong baseline around ethics and quality, who can be very, very successful. I'll tell you, comes to mind. He was on my show on Friday. That's Masaki. Masaki has really strong ethics, really, really strong ethics. Like when you look at his pyramids and his art, which are his art, they're impeccable. absolutely impeccable. And when he sends out a package, it's like his stuff is wrapped in this this bubble wrap sarcophagi. It's really kind of amazing. Like his wrapping is almost like an artwork, and so he's got impeccability. And this last year, I've seen Misaki just really grow. I mean, he's really been kind of blowing it out this last year. Like on Friday, I went to go do a search. Like I said on the show, I went to go do a search for him on my on Google, and I kept seeing he's on this show, he's on this show, and I was like, holy shit, man, you're getting around. And I remember when I first wanted to have him on my show, he hadn't really been on a lot of shows, and I thought he was really interesting. I'm like, I gotta get this guy on my show. And maybe a year ago, a year later, man, he's like everywhere. So he's a really good example of somebody who does really hard work, is impeccable, has a good, strong foundation baseline, is becoming really successful. And I'll tell you another person who's like that is Heather, Astrology with Heather. You know, Heather is somebody who works her ass off. And she does really, really good work. You know, I found the other day that she's got she's got one of the most visited astrological websites on the internet. And, you know, and it makes me feel really great because she was my student. Like Heather was my student, and I used to meet with her at Whole Foods, and I drained everything. I gave her everything I could. I was like, there you go. She got my course, and we met, and she was incredible. Like she was picking stuff up, and I knew she would be a really good astrologer. Did I think she would be as good and as popular as she is now? I would have to say, honestly, no. You know, I didn't think that. I didn't. That doesn't mean that I didn't think she would be really, really successful because I knew she would be. But to the degree that she is successful, it's really been very inspiring in a lot of ways to watch her do that. So, but that's again, she does really good work and strong baseline, strong foundation. It's somebody who can, you know, be successful without being a complete sociopath. So, you know, these are just two people in my immediate circle that I know of, and I know some of you out there know people like this as well. Now, that said, there's another group of people who will do anything in their power to achieve a certain level of status and get on top, right? We just know that this is going to happen. And then I think there's another group of humanity where they can fall into this other camp, which is, I'm just going to help people. I'm just going to be about service. And while that can be very effective, if it's not being counterbalanced by some form of actualization, then what happens is that people burn out, they have the wrong motivation, and they're looking for a new career in 4 to 5 years, like, or maybe even less at times, depending on what they do. And some people just want a little small, you know, piece of the pie, and that's fine with them. And, you know, they'll fly below the radar with whatever it is. But my experience with business is if your business is growing or whatever it is you're doing is growing, you have to keep feeding, building, or else the expansion stops and, you know, you can backslide a little bit. There's these moments of, open acceleration. So, but I would put most of humanity in the kind of the service side of things, or I see these people out here and they're doing great things and I could never ever do that. And I see that in my work too. Like there are people who see people in alternative media or healing, and then, you know, it's this, because they've got some kind of accreditation or magic spell. And I'm not going to name a lot of names, but there are a lot of false prophets out there. And what happens is that people wind up projecting into them, and it keeps them from achieving what they need to do or what they can do, because it's still a system of authority. I mean, they're in alternative authority, but it's still a system of authority. You know, it's not traditional. You know, it's a different kind of hierarchy, and people get trapped in those hierarchies. And I remember back in around 2007, 2008, 2009, when I was really starting to kind of move in this direction. one of the things that I was looking for well-known people in the media that had this kind of zeitgeist that I could relate to. And one of the people that I related to because of his outrageousness and his kind of, how do I say this, demonic dedication to the truth was Bill Hicks. And by the way, Bill Hicks is not Alex Jones. Okay. And a lot of you know Joan. Joan knew Alex Hicks. Alex Hicks. That's funny. Bill Hicks as a child. She knew him growing up. So she knows Bill Hicks. I'm sorry, Alex Jones. I keep going. She knows Alex Jones. She knows Alex Jones's father. She worked for Alex Jones's father. Now, could there have been some kind of weird program going on that she didn't know about, or possibly? 6 degrees of separation. I talked to Bill Hicks's mother one time on the phone. I was trying to do a deal with her to get these Sacred Cow recordings. Kevin Booth. Kevin Booth lives in the town that I live in right now, Fredericksburg. How weird is that, right? Anyway, yeah, so I was really into Bill Hicks. And I thought, well, this guy's on it. This guy's on it. He's dialed in. I can get this, right? So we look for these people that approximate our belief system, our level of consciousness. We project outside of ourselves. And one of the most liberating things I ever did was to read Inside Laurel Canyon by Dave McGowan. And I'd already known some of the McGowan stuff, clearly not to the degree that Dave did the research on. And if you have not read Inside the Laurel Canyon, it's online. You can buy a hard copy book. Dave's no longer with us, but it's a really good read. And what does it do? It helps you kill your idols. It helps you kill your idols. And that's important. Like, you can respect somebody, and there's a difference between respecting somebody's work and what they do versus looking at them and to them as being somebody who has, this kind of, these answers, this glow or whatever. That's really dangerous. It's very, very dangerous. So I'm all about respecting somebody's work. If somebody's really good, man, like, check the box, and keep checking that box until you've either moved on from their work, or they've proven otherwise, or maybe you never uncheck that box, and it's just it's a big party to the end of time. But if you read the Laurel Canyon, it'll help you kill your idols. And so I started to look around. I started killing my idols. That was the first thing that came to mind. It's like, I gotta step outside of this box where somebody, theoretically appears to be somebody that we can trust and or exhibits and displays some really, really good qualities. And right now we're in a very interesting point with the Saturn-Pluto conjunction, because this is some of the stuff that's being revealed. So I'm going to show you a picture. Let me see if I can find it. I pulled a few images we're going to look at tonight, but I want to show you this picture. It's kind of interesting. There we go. Sometimes the internet and Twitter are a lightning storm, just a freaking lightning storm. Like, things happen so quickly. So let me show this to you. Okay. And I'm not showing this to you because this guy is a turncoat or anything, but Matt Gaetz is one of the rising stars of the Republican Party during the Schiff proceedings, the impeachment. Matt Gaetz was the bulldog on the other side. Now, he voted for the War Powers Act, but here we go. Do you see that? You know what that is? That is a Freemasonic grip right there. And that's Rod Rosenstein. Guess what, Rod Rosenstein? He's another Freemason. It's a club, and this guy's smiling, and he's seeing. It's like, really? Really? You got that grip? You got that? And it's like, it's like other people are noticing too. Brother back here is noticing, right? Are you a widow's son? I am a widow's son. I am the son of a widow, right? So again, I'm just showing this to you because 3 weeks ago, Everybody's like, Matt Gates, Matt Gates, Matt Gates. He's badass, 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 badass. Yeah, he's one of us. He's one of us. And now he's flipping the Masonic grip. Is it bad to be a Mason? It's a question you need to answer. I mean, I'm not a big fan of secrecy and orders, although I understand why sometimes they have them. I think in a time of like really, like if right now, or let's say a year from now, this place turned into a Philip K. Dickian super surveillance police state, you'd have to form secret underground orders. Like you'd have to do it if you had any kind of desire to stay alive and have people help you. And guess what? You'd have to arrange it in such a way so that it was so complex and arcane that even people on the outside or people that were interested, they wouldn't know kind of what your high signs and hand signals were. So you could identify with one another, right? So I get it, right? I get it. I'm trying to play a little bit of the devil's advocate. There's a time when people had to do that for whatever reason, whether it was because they were going to chop their heads off because they saw the world in a very different way than the Catholic Church did, which was determining how the universe was actually sort of set up, right? The mechanization of the universe. You had all these other characters are like, well, no, it's really not that way. We got these instruments. We can see this stuff. And by the way, if you want to come over here and look at it, I'd be happy to tell you, which blows the Catholic Church's deal. And like Galileo, they lock them up for however long. And they're sitting around going, well, gee, maybe that's not a good idea. I think if we're going to latch onto these ideas, maybe we should just kind of share them amongst ourselves because it's apparent that these people over here are, out to fucking lunch and know what we're talking about. So I get it, right? I'm trying to be open here. But when it gets to a point where it is a massive network and influences things, and I'm not saying all Masons are bad. I'm sure that there are Masons that are very well-meaning and they believe that they're involved in this brotherhood, which is working on the sacred architecture of the planet, right? And then I believe that to be true, by the way. And we also know that there is a lot of potential secrecy involved, a lot of secrecy. So what Matt Gaetz did in that moment was saying, guess what? I'm not just a Republican. I belong to this club. So when you do that, it's like, okay, well, what does that really mean? And can we trust you? Based on what we know, can we really trust you? And that's been coming up all week. And this is part of what's happening. This is what I've been talking about. I'm talking about the overreach of government, where things are being revealed. This whole thing that's going on in Iran, I'm like, good luck. Good luck untangling it, okay? And even if you've got the QAnon playbook, not everything is as it seems. It's not. It's not as it seems. And I've been working on other parts of my personal development and something else. Like I'm paying less attention to that script. But what I am paying attention to is the script that's being revealed to us through these astrological alignments. Now, one of the things that I talked about was this overreach of government and corporations, and that things would be revealed and start to be revealed, and that this eclipse time was the beginning of the revealing and the unveiling, that we would see things, and it has to do with that south node in Capricorn. That is the chink in the armor, the fly in the ointment. It is the glitch in the program. It is the back door through which you can go through and see what's happening. Oh, speaking of the glitch in the program, Facebook had one just a couple of nights ago. I think it might have been either last night or the night before. Let me show you what happened. Let me show you what it revealed. This is exactly what I'm talking about. And you guys will undoubtedly get a kick about this. So here we go. You got to check this out. This is kind of important in some ways because it gives us a glimpse, an insight, right? Both into astrology and into how the world is run. So this was 112. So this is yesterday. Facebook glitch reveals Greta Thunberg's father posting as teenage climate activist. So if you missed this last night, it happened very quickly, and it showed up on a Polish, like Polish 4chan or Polish Reddit. That's where it showed up, and had all these examples of people running fan pages on Facebook. And perhaps this one is the most damning, most embarrassing. A Thursday evening software update. So it's Thursday evening at Facebook accidentally allowed anyone to view exactly who is posting under the accounts of public figures, businesses, and other entities, according to Wired. The result, for starters, some 3 million followers of teenage climate activist Greta Thunberg have been reading posts written by her father. Does that surprise anybody? And guess what Greta is? She's a Capricorn, right? So she is really, like, what's her birthday? Isn't her birthday like today or something like that? Or it's very, very close. We did this on the show the other day. We'll look it up. So she's a Capricorn. So she's in the eclipse wave by her father, Svante Thunberg, and a climate activist in India who serves as a delegate at the UN's climate change organization, Adarsh Pratap. How about that? So Greta's posts are being posted. Now, the thing is, if you didn't know any different, you'd think it was Greta's page, right? There's nothing on the page that states Greta Thunberg Inc. or Greta Thunberg's climate change warrior family or anything like that. It's Greta Thunberg. Thunberg Inc. claims Greta is still the one writing the content. So I'm going to talk like Greta. I'm channeling Greta. Greta Inc. explained this in a Saturday Facebook post purporting to be the young climate activist. Some people have been asking who manages this page. First of all, since last spring, I only use Facebook to repost what I write on my Twitter and Instagram accounts. Reads the post in which she says she tried Facebook early on, but didn't like it. So she uses my father's Svante's account to repost content. So there's the post. In other words, of course, it's not me, silly. You should have known I just co-managed the fan page, except by all outward appearances, it appeared to be her page. It's all Greta, 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 Greta. You know, does it say Svante Thunberg on there? No. Because who the hell would go to Svante Grunberg's Facebook page? I'm not even sure Mrs. Grunberg would go there. Facebook's page transparency shows Greta as the owner, with the only clue suggesting she might have help being a page manager located in India. Right, so there we go, right there. People manages page, India, Sweden, created December 7th, 2018, by the way. According to Facebook, the flaw was quickly fixed, but not before the people behind the famous accounts were revealed and shared on public forums such as 4chan. That's what I'm talking about. We quickly fixed an issue where someone can see who edited or published a post on behalf of the page when looking at its edits history, said the company in a statement. Facebook says the bug was a result of a code update that it pushed on Thursday evening, blah, blah, blah. People who run sensitive pages, whether on Facebook, should now consider their identity may be known, says Lukasz Olenik, independent privacy advisor and Oxford University Center for Technology and Global Affairs. While mistakes happen, this one is unexpected. So let's be really clear. Is it a surprise? Is it a striking revelation that Greta does not put up her own Facebook posts? The answer would be no. It'd be no. But this is what I'm talking about. This is the kind of process that I've been talking about. Let me show you another example of this. I'm just telling you, we're living in a time, really, really interesting revelation. Really interesting revelation, especially now as this is going to be going on until late May, early June, right around mid-June. That's when the node shift and the true node goes into Gemini, and the South Node goes into Sagittarius. When the true node is in Gemini, just get ready for double speak, double talk, justification. I mean, it's going to be really wild and bizarre time. This true node in Gemini. It's like today when that game went off with Gemini and the Ascendant and had all these freaking lead changes and weird plays, and it's like you had to catch your breath. 2020 is going to be like that. Okay, but right now, first decan, South Node in Capricorn. That's the most potent part of the decan, right? So we're going to be seeing the flies in the ointments. We're going to have these peaks behind the veil. Let me give you another example. This came in just recently as well. So here we have. Check this out. And this is no surprise, but when this was happening in 2001 and 2002, 2003, you had all these defense contractors, people that were connected to the military industrial complex, but they were coming on not just Fox, but CNN and MSNBC and all the networks and posing as people that knew what the hell was going on in Iraq and say, oh, yeah, this is going on and this is going on. And, we got to get there. We got to take this guy out. The reason why you got to take him out is because he's got all these weapons and blah, 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 blah. And he poses a real threat to the region. And da, 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 da. You know what it is. Turns out that all those people that were on those shows, they found out later, they were all paid. They were all paid. They were all paid spokespeople for whatever military industrial complex company was promoting them, or their think tanks, and the think tanks take money. So Brookings, which you'll see here, the Brookings Institute takes money from defense contractors. That's how Brookings stays alive. That's how they stay afloat and taking you into the Capricornian world. And it's with that money they look at governmental policy, some corporate policy, by the way, military policy, and they begin to create and support models where their backers are both promoted and their interests are not just promoted, but their interests are result in economic gain. Ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching. Okay, so let's get into this. Washington Post. Now, this is the Washington Post. Washington Post. Jeff Bezos. Right, Jeff Bezos bought the Washington Post. This is his rag. So they're running an editorial. It's a pro-war column without disclosing authors' Raytheon ties. This guy is Stephen Hadley, and he's worked for other administrations. And this was on March 30th in 2017. So, but this was published on January 10th. That was a 2017 hearing. This was published just the other day. This week, the Washington Post published an opinion column by Stephen Hadley, a former Bush administration official, member of the board of directors of Raytheon. Oh, he's on the board of directors. In his op-ed, he's not even a Brookings guy. In his op-ed, Hadley justified the Trump administration's assassination of Iranian military commander Qasem Soleimani and argued the United States should keep its military force in Iraq. Hadley wrote that killing Soleimani was a bold move with potentially far-reaching consequences and unquestionably heightens the risk of war, but it could also open the door to diplomacy. Well, of course, if you've got a big fucking stick and somebody is giving you a hard time, well, that's big stick diplomacy. For Hadley, a heightened risk of war can be big profits, though. This is not noted anywhere in the piece. The Post, which adopted the motto "Democracy dies in darkness" after Donald Trump's attacks on it and other U.S. media institutions, described Hadley as National Security Advisor to former President George W. Bush. However, it did not disclose that Hadley sits on the board of directors of the weapons manufacturer Raytheon. As Adam Johnson noted on Twitter, Hadley earned $304,946 in cash and stock from Raytheon last year and owned shares in the company worth $2.4 million. Okay, there we go, boys and girls. It is more transparency coming through the Saturn-Pluto conjunction, Jupiter expanding on that south node and showing where there is egregious excess. Now, how potent and how meaningful would that column have been if they put his Raytheon credentials on there? Yeah, not real potent. In fact, it would tear his credibility apart. just a slight, um, that's what I'm looking for, omission, just a slight omission. So let's see, other figures such as David Petraeus, Jay Johnson, Jack Keane, and John Negroponte have also been doing the media circuit defending Soleimani's assassination. Interesting. Jay Johnson. Jay Johnson was the guy that worked for the Obama administration. He was the guy that was in charge of Homeland Security. You probably saw his face when you went through TSA, the little screens and talking about the imminent threat and all that stuff. The stakes have never been higher. Oh, this is for truth out. Yeah. But this is interesting. And, you know, Truth Out does happen to be kind of a lefty progressive publication. But, you know, sometimes news is news and information is information. So again, I just wanted to bring that to your attention because, you know, you link that up with the Greta Thunberg kind of slip there, and we begin to see now. We begin to see a pattern, and these patterns are emerging around the eclipse. It's an important pattern because this is part of the eclipse cycle, right? This is an important part of it because we're going to see now, between now and the next eclipse, which happens on the 5th of June, that who's behind the curtain, right, isn't as omniscient and omnipotent and all-powerful as some people still think that this entity known as authority and hierarchy and governmental structures and corporate structures seem to be. Now, that said, I'm sure if they wanted to make your life miserable, honestly, they probably could. But on the same token, we're starting to see now that there are cracks in the facade. And that's going to be, again, I think, part of the unmasking that's going to be going on moving forward. It's all starting. It's all happening now. Let me check in with you guys, see where you're at. I've been talking for a while. I probably need to stop, catch my breath. We've got 144 people watching. Wow. Let's see. Bezos scares me. He is an odd-looking dude, isn't he? Really, really odd. Great books by Stephen Covey. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Has interesting case studies of group effectiveness, and many other related books are all great. You know, yeah. I mean, I think books like that are probably really good to read during this time. Really, really good. Because this is what's in the air right now. What's in the air is actualization, manifestation, intentionality. You know, I'm thinking of moving from my current location because it's getting too small in some ways. You know, I'm open to staying here in this area. I'm clearly open to that. So I started to look at a place, or in that process, and I looked at this place not far from here, and I'm looking at, oh, it's kind of a cool place, and oh man, I really want to get out of here. And oh man, look at this hardwood. I'm just looking at it on the computer. Oh, look at this. Oh, it's got a backyard, and I'm thinking, oh yeah, I could roll this. It's got a carport. You know, it's a standalone structure, which I really want to get into right now. And then I thought about it. I'm like, but that's not really what I'm looking for, right? That's not what I'm looking. I'm like, well, what are you looking for? I'm like, okay, I want this, and I want this, and I want this, and this one, you know. And this is that time. This is that time. You know, intentionality, I think, is really important, and it's something in a lot of ways. I'll be honest with you, it's something that's really kind of new for me because I grew up in California. When my chart is relocated, I have Uranus and Leo on my ascendant. I grew up there my entire life with a relocated Uranus on my ascendant. You think intentionality is any part of that fucking story? It is not, man. I'm telling you right now. It's a lot of fun. It's crazy. A lot of chaos, a lot of outside stuff, a lot of high strains, a lot of synchronicities. I got stories from California that would take up a couple of days worth of shows. But now that I moved to Texas, again, this is the power of the relocated chart. Very important now. Very important to understand your relocated chart. If you've moved more than likely westward and eastward by say 1,000 miles, you got to look at your relocated chart. And so the relocated chart here for me is it's now, instead of Leo and Uranus on my ascendant, now it's Virgo. Now I'm kind of getting into this Virgo mode of being very specific, right? I mean, very, very specific. And I've got Pluto in my first house as well. Not too far off the ascendant, but it's there. True nodes there. So I'm getting more of this Virgo mind space. So this whole intentionality thing as the ascendant of, and this is the, and a lot of times this is the way relocated charts work too. Is that if you've been in a place for a while and you've had a certain kind of life, you will bring that life with you for a while. And then ultimately it will change because the way that you've lived your life before will, and people will say, well, you know, if you can't move, you bring your troubles with you. That's not really true. That is not, you may bring a certain mindset with you, but because of the way the relocated chart works, I have found that there are very different opportunities that open up in very different areas of particular places on the planet. So sometimes those can be very, very dramatic and very powerful. Like when I go back east and I go to Philadelphia or Washington or New York, my sun is right on the ascendant, and I can feel that immediately. Right here, it's a bit different because I don't really have that. My sun here is first house, but not on the ascendant, but it's still out there. So it's taken a while for me to reorient and move into that kind of Virgo headspace because if you're in a place for a long, long time and you kind of run your game or run your program in a certain way, it takes a while for it to be recalibrated. So this whole idea around intentionality is very, very different for me versus living with the chaos magic of Uranus on my ascendant. So this is my new thing. And I also believe it's very much part and parcel of what we're going through with the Saturn-Pluto conjunction and Jupiter in Capricorn. So this whole year is kind of like that, right? The Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in Capricorn. It's all about intentionality and really sitting down and plotting out, you know, where you want to be, where you want to go. The world's not going to end. It could get weird, okay? We talked about that. It's not going to end. But I believe that the more that you're intentional with your world, the better off we are of offsetting a lot of these strange radical energies that are trying to impose themselves inside of the dominant paradigm. So as an exercise, you may want to try that. You may want to try with small intentionality and try to understand, you know, what you want or need in something over, say, the next 30 days. That is kind of important. And you can boil it down and say, okay, I would say intentionality is the kissing cousin of manifestation. And with really clear intentionality that the manifestation has a better chance of cohering. And of course, it's always for the highest and the best good, which is, you know, better performance or more abundance or, being able to care or share or care more for others, right? That all comes to be part of the process in some ways, but that intentionality is real important. So, you know, maybe, you know, we can start tonight. Maybe this is a really good exercise tonight and think about, I'm going to work on this idea of a place to live. That's going to be my intentionality project. What's your intentionality project? What are you working on? For some people, beginning of the year, it's always about, well, I want to get in better shape, or I want to lose weight, or I want to do X. All of that can be distilled into some kind of blueprint of intentionality. So it's a rhetorical question, and it's also something that you can, and sometimes you can tell people. Sometimes it's not good to tell people. Sometimes people can help you with your intentionality. Those are people you trust. If you tell everybody about your intentionality, what does it mean? It means it's not really meaningful. Because if you tell it too much, and guess what happens? Then you're gonna dissipate the energy, and that's part of the process. You know, there's a part of the process that happens in the dark. We have to let it happen in the dark. And when I say dark, I'm not talking about, you know, the evil dark side. No, it's about this place where you know, it's chthonic. It's like it's beneath the surface of our earth, you know, the individual's earth, or the, what we'd call the subconscious realm, because it's a process that does take place as well. All right, let me check with you guys and see what some of your thoughts and intentionality are, and your intentionality in this year. What do we got? Let's see. What do we have? How long does it take to adjust a relocated chart? I've never heard of that before. Well, it's not, a relocated chart can happen very quickly, But if you've been in an area for a very long time, and you've been kind of, how do I say this, um, aligning the self towards that orientation of the chart, and where you head to is a very different orientation, it could take a while. It could take a while. Asane said, I read somewhere that the Native Americans never lived on Manhattan. Apparently, they would hunt there, but never lived there because the energy was too high. Well, there's a very similar story to that in California, which is, I mean, it's a really good, it's a really interesting observation of Sane. By the way, Sane's got her, she probably, I don't know if she'd mind me doing this. Very talented person. Very talented person. Should look her up sometime. Anyway, I think there's a lot of truth to that statement. If you look at like Greg Braden's, like Awakening to Zero Point was a really good book that Greg Braden wrote many years ago. And one of the things he talks about is he talks about this kind of the energy which comes off the coasts. And when it hits the coast, it's like, you know, it's really crackling. And that by the time the energy comes in the middle of the country, it really slows down, which is why the middle of the country has always been the slowest in terms of change and in terms of, you know, kind of growth in some ways. That the coasts always get it first, right? The reason they get it first, according to Greg Braden, is this, these waves of energy. He's actually able to chart them as they come in, right? So there's probably a lot of truth to that about Manhattan and the energy there. It's crazy, right? And it's a crazy, crazy energy, Manhattan. Wild. I love it, though. Anyway, California is a very similar place called Bolinas. And Bolinas is a very small little kind of artist community in Northern California, Marin County. And the Native Americans would never go there. They would never go to Bolinas because that's where they would do their medicine because the energy was too big in Bolinas. Well, it's part of the Pacific plate. It's not part of the continental plate. And so people have moved out into, if you've ever been to Bolinas, it has an air of being slightly nuts, by the way. I used to spend a lot of time there. The American author, Richard Brautigan, Trout Fishing in America, he lived there, committed suicide in Bolinas. It's kind of an intense place, very intense place. So there's some truth to that, Sane. Let's see what else we have. That makes sense to me. I live in Oklahoma and it feels different versus coast. Texas is the same way. Texas is very much the same way. Greg Braden, yep. German new medicine says arthritis, bones, and joints is brought on by self-devaluation. Oh, that's really interesting, Diana. California is its own country. I totally agree with that. California, I always thought, even when I lived in California, I mean, there was a time when I was living in California, I'm like, why the fuck are we with the rest of these people? You know, this is a whole different thing going on out here. There's a book called Ecotopia by the guy by the name of Lawrence Kallenbach, and he talks about how California, Washington, and Oregon, they separate from the Union and they form something called Cascadia, and their border is completely closed off to the rest of the U.S. And it sort of evolves into this kind of neo-pagan sort of sacred feminine centric kind of society. So, but California has always, to me, always been its own weird country. All right, let's see what else we have here. Check out Svante Arrhenius, the Nobel Prize winning Swedish eugenicist and Greta Thunberg's great grandfather. Yes. Yes. Another interesting character in the Thunberg lines. Bladder issues are, where do I belong? I have nothing in common with these people. In California, I used to really, Eric Dollard. I know Eric Dollard. I don't know him personally though. Cascadia. Cascadia, Cascadia exists in the ether. So there was this one guy I met one time. It was on my 40th birthday. And this gets into Cascadia, but a very different version of it. It was my 40th birthday and I was alone. It was a really weird time for me. I was going through a divorce, and it was such a strange time in my life. Really, this is the Uranian energy. This was the Uranian energy that I lived with on the West Coast. So I was going through a divorce, and I was trying to find a place to live, and it was the summer of was it 1989? It was the summer of 1989, moving into 1990. Right? It was summer of 1989. So no, 19 it was summer of 1990. Right? It was the summer of 1990, and I was in Olympia, Washington, and I just gotten there, and it was Divorce City, and I've been bouncing around all over the West Coast, and this was kind of my life, right? So my ex wife at the time, I really loved her still, and we were great friends even after we split up. And I had heard this was on Memorial Day weekend. I had heard that she was going to be in Olympia, Washington, uh, baking a cake for a common friend for their wedding party. So it was one night, and I was getting ready to move into San Francisco. I found a place, all this bouncing up and down the coast, and it was 89 now. It was 89. I'm sorry. I just had to go back and correct that. It was just before the Gulf War, which is 1990. Anyway, so bouncing around and I had this place in San Francisco lined up. I was going to move there. I was going to get grounded, solid. But it was Labor Day weekend, and I was sitting around with my parents. We're having dinner, and I drank a bottle of wine. And I'm like, I'm going to go to Olympia. I'm going to go drive up to Olympia, and I'm going to go see Susan because she's going to be at this. She's making a cake for this wedding party. So I'm a bottle of wine in, and I'm like, I'm going to go. So I think I actually had like a tuxedo or something. I had a jacket and matching pants. So threw that in there, threw my leather jacket on, threw a few other things. And at that time, I had a dog and I had two cats. I had a kitten and a mother. The mother had kittens. So that was the last kitten left. Okay, I'm going to go. So it was about 9:30. I drove all night. And then I had a friend in just outside of Olympia, Scott Lake. He says, if you're ever in town and I'm not here, you can stay at my place. So I knew I had a place to stay. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna. So I'd stop along and I'd call him. And he's like, are you there? Are you there? He wasn't there. So I get there and I knew where the key was. So I finally let myself in. I'm like, cool, it's all good. I got a place to stay. And then I managed to hook up with miraculously with my ex-wife. I figured out how to, I mean, it's all pre-internet too. How we got things done pre-internet, I still don't, or pre-cell phones, I still don't understand. But it happened, right? I knew she was going to be there. I was going to be there. I somehow figured it out or called. So I figured it was like it happened, right? So I found out, and we hooked up. We had a great time. I was like, wow, this is the person that I knew I really connected with in a lot of ways. And she was going to go back to Hawaii, which just made me quite sad. But nonetheless, it was okay. And then I found out that this guy whose place I was staying at, he was in a coma. So now I got to stay at his place. It's like, okay, you're in a coma. I said, well, isn't that fucking strange? Okay, I'm going to go stay there. Now the guy's in a coma. So then I call up the people that I'm going to rent from, and they said, well, guess what? You can't rent here. We thought your dog would be okay, but the guy that owns this place says no dogs allowed, so you can't move here. So now here I am. I'm in Olympia, Washington. The guy's in a coma. I guess I'm staying there, right? I mean, there wasn't a lot of intentionality around that. See, that's Uranus on the ascendant. You play with the chaos. You just play with the chaos. So if you have Aquarius rising or you have Uranus on your ascendant natally and you're kind of living in that area that you were born in, roll the chaos. I'm telling you, it's an interesting and fun way to live your life. And in many regards, don't depend on dependability. Be an artist, right? Anyway, so then I'm like, okay, well, I'm here now. Well, what am I going to do? So I look in the newspaper, and there's a job working at this restaurant and being like a banquet waiter. So I call him up. I had some restaurant experience. I call him up, and I said, yeah, hey, I'm interested in the banquet position. And I get this voice. Do you have any experience? Oh, restaurant people are like this sometimes, by the way. I said, yeah, I've got a lot of experience. How soon can you be here? Can you be here? Can you be here in 45 minutes? I'm like, because I needed a job, right? And they're like, yeah. What am I wear? Black pants, white shirt. I did not have a white shirt though. I neglected the white shirt. I got the tux thing. I forgot what I wore. So now I got to go get a white shirt to get to this job. So I thought to myself, you know who has white shirts? Dry cleaners have white shirts. Because a lot of times people leave their shirts at dry cleaners. Sometimes they sell shirts. Not every dry cleaner does this, by the way. But in my mind, I had this idea. I'd never done it before. And so, again, I'm not from this area, but I find a dry cleaner and look around and say, you got any white shirts for sale here? And there's a whole rack of shirts that people had left there, right? And so now I got a shirt. And I go down there and I start this job. And I wind up staying for like 2 years. It was one of the greatest times of my life. One of the greatest times of my life. So anyway, the guy wakes up out of his coma. He wakes up out of his coma. And then he's going to get married. It's like, it's so weird. It's such a weird story. It's such a weird, and it gets even kind of weirder too. At least, well, in a good way. So anyway, though, he wakes up in his coma. And his wife, soon to be wife, works at this hospital. And this guy, God, again, high strength. I knew this guy. I'm sorry, I'm rambling a little bit tonight, but this is kind of funny shit. So I met this guy at this, what is it, Mount Madonna. And Mount Madonna was this ashram. It was at the silent yogi, Baba Hari Das. He's part of the Das family. And he wrote everything on a chalkboard. And, part of that whole kind of Ram Dass, rest in peace, Ram Dass, part of that crew. And they all played very, very aggressive volleyball there. Anyway, and it was this workshop, and the person who was running the workshop was this woman named Rosalind Briere. And she had been a technical assistant for that Ellen Burstyn movie called Resurrection, which is actually a really good movie. And she was a channel. She was the worst fucking channel I'd ever seen. Like she supposedly channeled this Tibetan bone master. And I'm like, this is bullshit. I'm sorry. I was there for 2 days. She was mildly interesting. Reverend Rosalind Briere, mildly interesting. She gets the channel thing. It's like, I wanted my money back. I mean, that was bad. I mean, I could have done better channeling than that. Anyway, I met this guy there, and I was with this woman I was seeing at the time. And I met this guy there, and we were sleeping in my car. And because we just showed up and both didn't have a lot of money. And he says, "Oh, I've got a very nice place, very nice cabin. The woman I'm with, there's an extra room." And I met the woman, very nice woman. He seemed like an okay guy. So we went there. It was a pleasant evening. We had dinner. It was much better than sleeping in my car. Trust me, that first night, brutal. So they only had one bathroom there. This is where it gets kind of weird. So I go outside, go pee. It's out in it's in the woods, peeing in the woods. The nice thing. So I'm there peeing, and all of a sudden, this is where it gets really weird, right? I start feeling these hands on my shoulders. And this dude who invited us to his cabin is massaging my shoulders while I'm taking a piss, okay? It was really weird, very uncomfortable. I was like, okay, just keep your hands up there, buddy. All right, keep them up there. So I finished the pee, we go inside, and so I stayed in touch with this guy. And this guy winds up being the guy in the coma, right? Years later, he's coma man. He's an interesting character, by the way. Very interesting character. Very powerful dude, consultant. Anyway, not really very good at relationships, though, with women. Hey, gee, wonder why, right? I mean, he's not in bed with, well, I have to admit, the woman he was with was fairly attractive. She was older, but a dancer. I mean, she's very well taken care of. I'm like, why are you here massaging my shoulders while I'm peeing. Well, you could be in bed with that beautiful woman. That was not making any sense to me. Okay. So anyway, he has this other relationship now with this other woman who is the administrator of this hospital that he's in a coma in. All right. And he was kind of on the fence and committing to her and everything. So he wakes up out of the coma. Who's the first person he sees? This woman. He sees this woman. And he's like, oh my God, so happy to be alive. Oh, marry me, marry me, marry. It's like maybe she put him in a medically induced coma to just get to that point. Like I think she might have done that. Like maybe she had figured this shit out. Like I'm gonna get him. I'm really gonna get him. So he comes out of this coma. Oh, marry me, marry me. And she says, yes, yes, I will. I don't think the marriage lasted, by the way. In fact, I know it didn't last. That said, now he's up, he's at him, he's out of the coma, and he is gonna come back to his little place, which I've been staying at. And he's got family members, this woman's family members are coming into town, and they're gonna stay at the place, and I gotta go. And I got no place to go. And it's my 40th birthday. I have no place to go. I'm like, well, man, I watched your place, while you're in a coma. Now I got to go. And I'm invited to your wedding. And I'm the guy whose shoulders you were rubbing while I was taking a pee. And I'm not even your wedding. Come on now. That was okay. I moved on. Did not take it personally. That's the good thing about Uranus on the ascendant. Things happen fast. So, so I said, where do I want to go? Shit, I don't know. I don't have a lot of money, which I didn't. So I decided to go to Mount Rainier. I'm going to go spend my 40th birthday at Mount Rainier. And it's pretty much what I did. Me, my dog, and my 2 cats. So what happened was on my 40th birthday, which is a Saturday, I parked my car like on this really, really, really shady road. And it was shady all day. It was like had a canopy, okay? So please don't call PETA on me. And the cats were left in the car, and they had a litter box, and they were able to take care of business in the car. When you're on the road, you understand these things. You know how this shit works. So I walked with my dog that whole day. My 40th birthday was one of the greatest days of my life. Completely alone. Nobody around me. And mountain streams. It was on U.S. Forest Service land. So at the end of the day, after a number of different adventures, at the end of the day, I wind up at this place, which is a little trout place. And I might have actually mentioned this before, but I hook up with these people. And one of the guys, this guy, Wayne Aho, who is a former military colonel, Major Wayne Aho in the U.S. Air Force. And he's one of these early UFO guys. And he was one of the trippiest people I've ever met. This older dude. And he tells me that there was this land, this community that was in the Cascades, the Pacific Northwest, called Poseidon, and that he was a high priest in a previous lifetime, an incarnation in Poseidon. The guy told me all about it. And this guy's former major USAF, seen UFOs and all kinds of shit. That was my 40th birthday. That's Uranus. Living on with Uranus on your ascendant. Wound up staying in Olympia for 2 years. It was great. It's a great time. I don't know what the town is like now. I've heard it's like pretty gnarly with the SJWs from Evergreen College have taken over. All right, let's see what we got going on in the chat room. Let's see what you people are chatting about. Sorry, little journey there. Screw astrology. You're a full-time storyteller. You're Mark Twain. So let's see. Robert is 70. No, my 40th birthday. I'm sorry, 19. I got the times wrong. 1980. It was. Hold on a second. When was it? 19. It was 20. It was 28 in. It was my 30th birthday. My bad. See, I'm not ready to be Mark Twain. It was my 30th birthday. My apologies. A little bit late. So I screwed up on my but it was my 30th birthday. Thank you for clarifying that. It's been such a long time ago. 30th. Thank you. I don't look that old, do I? Sorry, 30th birthday. 40th birthday I was in Paris. Try to spend the big birthdays in an interesting place. Does anybody else do it? Interesting place? I'm going to be 60 next year. I'd like to be in an interesting place. And hopefully straight up, vertical. Thanks. I messed up on my own birthday. I got 40 and 30, but the story's the same. Just different years. Thank you for reminding me. All right, let's get into a little more astrology here, because that is what this show theoretically is about. I pulled the chart of the moment. Why don't we just go back to where the chart of the moment is now? Because like most things in life, the moment has changed. Let's see where we are now. It's a Leo moon. Got to be a little gregarious. All right, let's get into this. The week ahead. Okay, here we go. Da-da-da. All right. So here we are, 24 Virgo on the ascendant. And we have these are really interesting energies now. Let's take a peek in. We have Sun at 2225. And we have Pluto currently at 2247. So we have Sun-Pluto conjunction. It's getting close now. It's getting close. So sometime during the night, the Sun is going to conjunct Pluto, and let's see, 22, and the world's going to end. So when you wake up tomorrow, you will be in another version of the Earth. Okay, just keep that in mind. 22. Yep, there it is. No, I'm just kidding. But tomorrow, we're between tonight and tomorrow, we will be in exactitude, and it's not quite there yet. And then we have Saturn, which is at 2250, and the Sun will conjunct Saturn tomorrow as well, between tonight and tomorrow. So we're really on the precipice of the exactitude of the conjunction. And then in 2 days, the Sun will conjunct Mercury. That would actually be a really interesting day, 2 days from now. I would expect, based on even with the square with Uranus, that there would be some information that would be disruptive and disturbing. One of the things that I was talking about with also the shuddering. You remember I was talking about the shuddering effect of the Saturn-Pluto conjunction, like shuddering as in seismic, tectonic. So I found this. There's a let me show you guys this. There's a volcano called Taal, Taal, in the Philippines. It just went active. I mean, this thing is trippy. You know, remember they already had a monsoon in the Philippines. That was on the first eclipse, right? So we go back to the 25th, 26th. They have a tsunami. Tsunami hits the Philippines, kills 24 people. Let's go back to the Philippines again, and on this eclipse, what do we have? Well, we have this volcano, Taal. And this is a really, really trippy. See if I can blow this thing up a little bit. Show this to you guys. I grabbed this today. It's gonna be maybe a little bit. I can make it bigger. Check this out. If you haven't seen this, it's pretty mind blowing. So this is this volcano that's been activated in the Philippines. And what really grabbed my attention about this is not that it just happened on this. With the eclipse, the lunar eclipse, and the Saturn-Pluto conjunction, we also have that Uranus in Taurus. And to me, this is really kind of typifying this Uranus and Taurus kind of energy. Check this out. It goes on a bit of a loop. You see that? Can you see that it goes on a loop? Look at this thing. So there is a lightning storm coming out of the frickin' volcano. Now, I'm not a volcano expert, so I don't know if this is happening here. Like I don't know. I don't know the exact science behind this. Okay, I'll play it again for you. But usually, if I'm not mistaken, lightning goes in the other direction. Although I guess there's heat lightning that comes up from the ground, which is not uncommon. So this is quite interesting. And then I got taken the other night into a Highlander sink, the movie Highlander. You guys know that movie? It's one of my guilty pleasures. And lightning, thunder and lightning are a big part of the Highlander. It's called the quickening, right? The quickening. And this is where Connor McLeod becomes this kind of superhuman force. There's so many plot holes in Highlander. I don't care though. It's fucking amazing, that movie, and especially the opening sequence with the wrestling. There's a shot at the beginning of Highlander where you start off at the top of this arena, and you actually go down, and it goes all the way around the arena and treks around and winds up right pretty much a little tiny jump cut at the end, focused on the Christopher Lambert character, and that's a shot that's done without any drones. It's a pretty amazing shot. So I was watching Highlander the other night, and then I stumbled into this like thread on GLP, and it was all about the Kurgan, and in the Kurgan, it was sort of like, okay, here, this was the thread. This was the thread. The thread was, it's a bizarre thread. If you could take, like, supposedly there is this, like, you could have your body genetically modified with worm DNA. And the thing with worms, of course, they regrow everything. You cut them and they regrow, right? So the idea here is that you would take on this worm DNA and live to 500. And so the question was, would you do it, right? And then this guy comes in, and there's a scene in Highlander where the Kurgan is inside of this church, and he said it's better to burn out than it is to rust, right? So he's quoting Johnny Rotten. So there's this weird sync. The other night I'm watching Highlander, then I click into this thing on GLP, and then there's this, right? So here's my estimation. I'm taking a big leap here, taking a Uranian leap, that what we are in now is we are in our own version of the quickening. That's where we are now. So I want you to wrap your heads around that. I want you to wrap your heads around that. I want you to wrap your heads around intentionality, and bolt that into the mainframe here. Because I feel like that's where we are. The universe is speaking to me. And this weird thing with this earthquake, now, of course, it could be absolutely catastrophic, and there could be billions of lives lost, perhaps. But I feel like where we are is this quickening. And there's been this kind of sense of doom. Oh my God, the Saturn-Pluto conjunction. And I even kind of bought into it a little bit. Like it's heavy. These are heavy energies. These are not your everyday, commonplace kind of energies. Saturn-Pluto conjunction doesn't happen every 5 or 10 years. This never happened. Not like this. It's never happened like this. 35 records. Or we're playing with a certain model of a universal solar system anyway. Never happened like this. We're still here. We're still breathing. Up, right. Lower, left. Sorry. I'm going to box. So, on the line we convert. Oh my gosh. Look at that. When you look at some of the other stuff that's going on. And that gates answer that. Look at that. So Oh man, sorry. Okay, hold on. Here we go. All right. How's that? My audio, man. I know, man. My freaking audio. Somebody texted me. I'm back now. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Where did I leave off? He said garbling as a tunnel. Okay, sound is kaput. Oh man. Yeah, okay, so my audio got struck by lightning. Sound. Okay. Where do we go? Sounds like one robot talking. Oh my God, I got to hear this later on. Let's see. Hopefully he cannot time travel. Worms and mushrooms. You heard the worms and mushroom thing. Okay. All right, how we doing on the auto side? I got to figure this shit out. My apologies. My apologies. It's the quickening. That's what I'm talking about right here. This is it, right? The Saturn-Pluto thing does not come around. It does not come around. What dimension we in? Yeah, I don't know, man. Yeah, the Saturn-Pluto thing does not come around often. Take advantage of it. This is the quickening. This is the quickening. Did you guys hear the story about the Kurgan? Did you hear that? Did you get the Kurgan piece? Okay, there you go. Thank you. Thank you. This is it, man. This is the quickening now. That's what's happening. Ride it. Roll with it. You know, just roll with this thing. Well, now we got Duncan in the chat. Gods of YouTube, fucking still garbled here. Oh, I'm sorry. Hopefully it's not too garbled. Some people say much better. Much better. No. Garble. That ends the story with Coma Man. Not really. Okay. All right. No. I apologize. What's a Kurgan? Well, somebody heard the Kurgan. All right. Let me see if I can find it. All right. So let me see if I can find it. I'm going to have to go through computer sound. Let's do this. Go to YouTube. What are we doing here? 5G in it. All right, hold on. These people, they just live in such a fucking artificial world, man. These think tank people, these so-called experts. It's just bizarre. And the act is getting really bad. It's just getting really, really bad. Really bad. And people are seeing it. Not like the 60s when everybody was doing drugs. People are getting more lucid and aware because people saw it in the 60s, but they were so fucking high they couldn't do anything about it. All right, here we go. I'm going to show you the church scene for the Kurgan. Let me see if I get the right scene here. Okay, hold on. There it is. Okay. Let me see if I can just get to the point where he does his thing. So the Kurgan is played by Clancy Brown, who eventually became a voice on SpongeBob. From the Kurgan to SpongeBob. That's a career arc right there. How do you like that? All right. So the church is the sacred place. Hold on. The church is the sacred place. You can't fight in the church. So they're in this church. I think it's probably St. John the Divine, maybe in New York. Steve, you might be able to corroborate that. So here's the Kurgan, and this is Connor McLeod's
rival. They have to kill each other, or somebody has to kill somebody. There can only be one. So here's the scene that I was talking about. Here it goes, right here. That shall be his undoing. Father, forgive me. I am a worm. Oh, a worm. I didn't get that. I'm a worm. How about that as a thing? He's a turtle. I have something to say. It's better to burn out than to fade away. That's the Kurgan. He's a worm. And we were talking about worms, right? Immortality. Forgive me, I'm a worm. He's fucking immortal. So maybe there is something to the worm thing. Although I'm not going to line up to get the worm. We're in the quickening. That's where we're at. These aren't working, but I kind of like these on better. It makes me look more audio credible. So we're in the quickening now. This is what the Saturn-Pluto conjunction, this is what, it's here, it's happening, it's on. Ride the wave. Ride the wave, get into the energy. Get into the energy. Be intentional. I'm not here to talk about doom, I'm not here to talk about gloom, I'm here to talk about you. I'm here to talk about your potential. I'm here for you to talk, I'm here to talk about you living your divine script and your divine blueprint. If not now, when? If not now, when? Take advantage of this. And if you feel like getting a reading from me, we can do that. I can help you fine tune it. I can bring my wrench in there. We can tune your engine up. Absolutely. This is the time. It's the beginning of the year. It's the beginning of a new dawn, a new era in your life. No matter where you are, no matter what troubles you face, no matter what challenges are in your life, you can surmount them. You can overcome them. You may need some help. You may need support. But if you believe in it, and if you believe in yourself, and you believe in the divine spirit, the logos within, you can make this happen. And the rest of the world out there, and their little contratemps here and contratemps there, and this contractor and the Stephen Hadleys or whatever, right? Let them run their little scripts. We'll pay attention to them. We'll kind of see what they're doing. We'll continue to track them. From here on out, this is our show. This is our time. Take advantage of it. We've never been here before. And don't, and so what? What if the earth splits in half? And all these things do happen. It's going to happen anyway. And if you want to stave off some kind of a dark destiny for the rest of the planet or your family or whatever's coming, best thing you can do is get your own world right. That's the best thing you can do. And every now and then we can hack reality, like we did on Friday. That was a lot of fun. We did some reality hacking. There's other ways to do it too, right? Get your house in order. Get your pyramid in order, right? We're talking about Capricorn. And let's all move forward together. This is my message for all of you. Let's all move forward together, and let's help each other out along the way too. That's vitally important. When you can, lend a hand. I know it sounds corny, but it's true. It's very true. It keeps us grounded, keeps us humble, and it keeps us in our heart. So we can all lift each other up. We all rise together. All right, I'm out of here. Thanks for putting up my stories tonight. I didn't really want to get into a whole kind of like heavy duty tracker thing, because I've been talking about this for a long time now. There's plenty of other people talking about this. I want a bit of a different take. I want a bit of a different message. And I hope that I was able to share that with you. And I apologize for the sound thing. It was the sound worms. That's what happened. All right, let me say goodnight to you guys in the chat room before I punch the clock. Great message, our time. Hey, friend, wow, good to see you. Oh, you're talking to Duncan. Let's do more of that with Masaki. That was fun, huh? We'll do that. We'll do that a couple of, I think we'll do that with Masaki you know, maybe a couple times, too small for St. John Divine. Why does it create high strange? How can we harness this energy to create products or something? Well, that's a really good idea. Let's answer some questions of dialogue a little bit. So let's say you have an idea about a product. What, you know, what's to prevent you from R&Ding it, getting people excited about it, finding people that get excited about your idea around the product, right? That's what you can do. You know, you can start small and think big. Any other questions? Let's see. How much does the pyramid cost? You should go to Misaki's place. Highlander has a big sword. He does. Hey, there's a commercial where the guy licks the woman in the insurance commercial. Oh, I know. What else do we have here? Was he licking the other guy's worm? He's licking the father's hand. I want to be stoned in my sleep. What does that mean? I want to be stoned in my sleep. You want to get high? You want to be stoned? Or do you want somebody to stone you in your sleep? Why is that? Can you clarify that, Diana? You got to be careful with your language these days. Careful what you manifest. Let's see. Nice. So I kind of automatically did that. I'm illustrating the tarot deck. Started sharing it. Buzzes for me. There you go. You know, I mean, just do it. You don't know. I mean, your tarot deck could be like freaking wildly successful, or it may be moderately successful, but give you a great sense of feeling. And as long as you don't go hog wild and mortgage your house on the tarot deck, you'll be fine, right? It's all very Capricorny. You have to do things to scale sometimes. Capricorn is really good at that. Do things to scale and then build your way up. Anybody else? We got any other questions or anything else in the chat room? Dream. Hi. Oh, okay. Why not wine from Paris? Yeah. Guy's acting like a dog and likes a woman, really. I think I know that commercial. I've seen every other freaking commercial there is. I don't want to go down commercial land. I've had a good time tonight. A little depressed me, bring me down. Everybody, thank you. Thank you for a great 2019. Let's have a fantastic 2020 together. We'll continue to do this. We'll continue to look at more astrology on these Sunday nights. I'll be earlier, especially since football season is over. And of course, we'll be back on Tuesday for 15 Minutes of Flame, Friday Farcasts. And you guys are such a great audience and great chat room. Really appreciate you. All right. Use your head to discern what's real, your heart to say what's possible. You've been listening to Sunday Night Astro Live with Robert Phoenix. Have yourself a great Saturn-Pluto conjunction.